All right, Lyle, our question of the day today is, the blood that got sprinkled on the veil in the sanctuary and yearly in the most holy place would have been a lot. Did the curtain ever get washed? Because you would think it would get really smelly even with the incense.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I don't have the full answer to this. The Bible doesn't actually specify how the temple was cleansed, apart from how the sin was cleansed out of the temple. And so what you've got is that with a sin offering, you have the priest who takes the blood from the sin offering, takes it into the holy place, sprinkles it on the veil, on the floor in front of the veil, and on the four horns of the golden altar. And this is something that we often talk about because it is the best symbolism or representation of how God deals with sin. Then, of course, you've got the sprinkling of the blood that takes place on the most holy place, on the Ark of the Covenant once a year, and its purpose was to cleanse all of the sin that was in the holy place. Now, there's a couple of things to bear in mind, and that is that the primary and usual practice of transferring sin into the holy place was not by the blood, it was by the body. And so the Bible talks about Jesus. He carried our sins in his body on the tree. And so the more usual practice was that what would happen is when you made the sacrifice, you would cut off a portion of that sacrifice, you would wash that portion, it would be washed by the priests in the laver, it would be then cooked and eaten by the priests, so that when they went into the holy place, they would carry those sins in their own body, just as Jesus carried our sins in his body on the cross. And so you've got a lot more sin that is being transferred via the body than via the blood. So that reduces the blood dramatically. It doesn't say that there is no blood there. And certainly we would ask the question, well, what about the blood that is there? There's a couple of, ideas that have floated around, and that is that very little would have been sprinkled on the veil, and the majority would have been sprinkled on the floor and on the four horns of the golden altar. And so in one of the Mishnahs, it has this to say, this is Midos chapter 3, says that the altar and its ramp were cleaned every Friday with a cloth because of the blood. So, we weren't there, we didn't see it happen. This is simply what it says. And so you've probably got, a few specks that go onto the curtain, and a whole bunch that goes onto the floor during this time would get wiped down. But we need to remember that while we talk about the sin offering, there was two ways of transferring sin into the holy place. One way was via the blood, and one way was via the body, and nearly all the time it was done via the body carrying, the priest carrying the sin in his own body on the as a result of eating part of the sacrifice. Okay, so hopefully that helps out with answering this question.